Welcome to Disruptive Successor, a show for next generation leaders in family businesses and entrepreneurs who want to disrupt the status quo and take their existing business to a whole new level. We all know that what got us here isn't going to get us there. This show will provide inspiration, advice, and resources to help you create massive impact. This podcast is sponsored by myself, Jonathan Goldhill, and my company, the Goldhill Group, where we provide coaching for growing companies. I'm Jonathan Goldhill, and my purpose is simple: to guide entrepreneurial leaders in family businesses towards more freedom and fulfillment. I want entrepreneurs to get clarity around the changes that will make them and their businesses more successful so they can experience the same freedom I've enjoyed in my life. Our proven practices challenge business owners to think differently about their business and how they're running it, and quite literally become game changers in our clients' companies. Learn more at thegoldhillgroup.com website, where you can schedule your free strategy session. Hi, it's Jonathan Goldhill, and welcome back to another episode of the Disruptive Successor Show. In today's episode, we're going to be talking all things mindset. We'll be talking about success, gratitude, personal development, and then the process and systems of success. My guest today is Tony Child. He's the founder and owner of Elevated Worldwide, where their mission is to elevate businesses worldwide through the daily process of creating habits that produce desired results. He focuses on helping companies reach their goals while implementing positive change in the lives of its employees with time-tested and research-based processes. Tony has mentored executives, high-performing entrepreneurs, and Olympic athletes. Aside from his active guidance, through his book, Vision Shift, a 10-week program to transforming your life, company, and industry so you can have, do, and give more, Tony continues making a great impact on leaders' lives. Tony, a big welcome to the show today.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
Yeah. So, these are topics I think a lot of people take for granted, which is what is success? I think that's the most taken for granted thing. And, arguably, actually, gratitude is another thing that take for granted. I'm going to start with a confession and a statement, and then we'll just kind of roll into the show. So I have a theory, or a belief, I should say, that I grew up in a household that didn't ever use the word gratitude. We might have been grateful for things, but we never expressed it by using that word. And I don't know why, but like that word always seemed like a Christian word to me. And I grew up Jewish, and I grew up in a successful upper middle class family. We were quite privileged, and we didn't take things for granted. We knew that there were people that were less fortunate, and we were oftentimes feeling like we should do things for them and fight for their cause, but we never talked about the word gratitude. So that's one thing I want to get into. And I probably should come back. We'll come back to the concept of success, but I really simply put, I think that I also grew up believing that success was defined by kind of like who had the biggest house, who had the most expensive cars. And like my family never bought into that, but they never and I think my mom kind of communicated to us that like success is about being fulfilled inside, but it wasn't laid out to me in any kind of a discipline, or like, I wasn't given a spiritual program or like a handbook on saying like, this is how you go about finding success. So when I first started coaching and asking people like, what's their definition of success and trying to open people's minds up to it, I was like, this is going to be a hard question for people, because it's a hard one for me. So let's talk about gratitude, if you don't mind first. What's your sense about gratitude and where it fits into people's lives, and maybe how it showed up in your life? And
so I attended my first, kind of personal development workshop, professional development workshop when I was in the banking world. So I did banking for 15 years. I was an executive in banking before I jumped and opened my own company and did my own thing. But while I was there, I attended a workshop that was out of Harvard. It was based off the book, The Happiness Advantage. And the instructor, the very first thing they said when they got up is, if you change the way you see things, then the things you see will change. It's kind of a Wayne Dyer quote, but I laughed out loud. I thought that was the stupidest thing I'd ever heard in my life. Like, change the way you see things. Like, I just see. How am I supposed to change the way I see things? Like, right. And I didn't realize that people have a lens through which they're viewing the world. And this lens then dictates to them what they see. And I have now obviously studied for a decade, 2 decades now on positive psychology, personal development. And I have found there's one quote that like dictates everything in life. It's by Albert Einstein. And he said this. He said, the greatest decision you'll ever make in your lifetime is whether you believe you live in a hostile or a friendly universe.
Interesting.
The greatest decision you will ever make in your lifetime is whether you believe you live in a hostile or a friendly universe. So if I live in a hostile universe, then I believe in a universe that's out to get me, that has everything missing, that's dangerous, that's fearful, all of those things. That's the universe that I'll believe in. If I believe I live in a friendly universe, then I'll see a universe that's out to help me, that is for me, that is beautiful and amazing and grand. And so what I've found is, and this is now, research based, that I found about 85% of the public like sees life through this lens that life is out to get me.
Yeah.
85%.
That's amazing. I want to get into that. But, I'm sure you've heard this quote from Tony Robbins also, where he says, life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you. Yes. Or events don't happen to you, they happen for you. And that's a total mind shift kind of positioning.
Yeah, but when you believe that you live in a hostile universe, everything's happening to you.
Right, of course.
When you believe you live in a friendly universe, everything's happening for you. And what I have found in my research is the way to shift from hostile to friendly. If I now see it, if you're listening or watching this podcast, you're like, I think I'm there. I think I'm in a hostile, like I see a hostile universe. The way to get out of it is to be grateful. It's to consistently look for all of the reasons why you live in a friendly universe instead of a hostile one. And that takes practice. It takes time to really look at, because the hostile universe, I'm conditioned to see it through life through a lens of everything that's missing or everything that's wrong. It's impossible to see everything that's missing when I'm focused on trying to see everything that is present. And everything that I'm grateful for. I can't go there. My brain literally can't go to everything that's missing if I'm counting my blessings. So I just share with people, like, gratitude is like, in order for any personal development to work, you got to shift out of hostile, lack-based to friendly, abundant-based universe. And when you do, everything opens up. That quote that day that I laughed at is now the like mantra I live by. When I change the way I see things, the things I see will change.
I think that's really brilliant and really could be very helpful for a lot of people. So I don't mind being vulnerable on the show and being telling my story a little bit. I don't do that on most of my shows, but I think this is a really hot topic for me because I don't necessarily relate to the hostile versus friendly. I relate to critical versus non-critical. So I grew up in a household where my mother, who was my primary parent growing up, because I didn't really have a steady father figure, but that's besides the point. She was very critical of things. I never felt that she recognized or appreciated the career choice that I made. I felt that she was critical. If I showed her a self-help book, she'd be like, "What do you need to read that for?" kind of thing. And I have developed a similar critical approach to things. And as a coach / consultant with my clients, I think I'm paid to be like a critical thinker, but not to be a critical person. And so I did a lot of work on this gratitude. I actually, I don't know what you think about those, do the gratitude journal type of exercise where you write 50, I think it came from Rhonda Bynes, like the The Secret, the author. And I did 50 gratitude statements every day for a month. And I thought to myself afterwards, like, okay, that didn't really shift my mindset enough. It just, that I felt like I was doing it because I had to do it. It was an exercise that I gave myself as, self-coach. But like, this is a really hard thing when your family of origin might be critical, and then you adopt what you think are winning behaviors from your parent, and you do that same thing to your loved ones. It's really destructive.
It is. Yeah, it's super destructive. And what critical parenting does is it gets a child to believe that what they're doing in life is not good enough.
Yeah.
That who I am and this job I just did, or this paper I just wrote, or this sport I just played, that I'm not good enough. And if I look in the mirror and I see someone who's not enough, I'll see everything is not enough. I'll see that I don't have enough money in my bank account, or I don't have enough time in my calendar. I don't have enough love in my relationships. Like, I will begin to see that pour into everything else. And so gratitude turns not enough into always enough. And so how do I know? How do I know when I'm grateful? When I can look in the mirror and love who I see. That's how I know when I'm grateful. When I can look in the mirror and I don't find any critical thing about anything looking back at me. I just look in that person's eyes and I say, man, I love you. I love that person looking back at me. I don't have anything critical to say. That's when you know you are grateful. If you pick apart everything you see in the mirror, I'm sorry, you're ungrateful.
Yeah. No,
it's a really simple litmus test.
I think that's a good one. I always like what I see when I look in the mirror, but maybe I'm a narcissist. I don't know. I don't think so. But, so this is a fine line for entrepreneurs in businesses, because I find that a lot of leaders that are self-development focused, they're always wanting more. They want more money. They want more success. They want more toys. They want more revenue, profit, the whole thing. And so there's a fine line between being really grateful for what they have and wanting more and driving towards more success. How do you reconcile that with your clients? Like, how do you talk?
Yeah, people get confused, gratitude and satisfaction. They lump those two words together and they're completely separate.
Okay.
Like, they're completely separate words. And so people lump, like I hear all the time, like when I'm going after life, when I'm super driven and I'm opening up companies and I'm doing a bunch of stuff, I'll get people that will come to me and like, can't you just be satisfied with what you have? Right. Can't you just be grateful for what you have? And those are two different questions.
Okay.
Like, can't you just be grateful and can't you just be satisfied are two completely different questions. Like, I am super grateful for what I have, right? Like, really grateful for what I have. And I'm super dissatisfied. Like, I want more.
Oh my gosh. So that sounds, I get it, but like, that must be really confusing.
So here's do you want the ladder? Can I give you and it's ladder of, and by the way, if you go to Dr. David R. Hawkins, he wrote a book called Letting Go. He wrote another book called Power versus Force. Okay. Phenomenal scientist. And he came up with what's called levels of consciousness. And there's different levels of consciousness that people live by, and there's different energies by with which people live by. And the very bottom level is shame. And when a person is in shame, you can't create. It's the closest to death. Mm-hmm. And right above shame is guilt. Mm. And right above shame and guilt is apathy. And then grief and fear. All of those are like the bottom levels. Mm. And when a person is in apathy, they won't do anything. And so here's my test of gratitude versus ungratitude versus gratitude. So ungrateful is, I just see life through a lens of not enough, everything that's missing. And satisfied means I do nothing about it. So here's what I see about people. I've got kind of this bottom level, and I call it my apathetic level. And this level are the people that bitch and moan and complain about life, but do nothing about it. Mm-hmm. They just don't do anything about it. They see life through like, there's not enough money. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough this. I don't have enough that, but they're totally satisfied. And so they don't do anything. They literally become apathetic to life. They have no desire. Mm. And so those people, that's the bottom level, the people that are ungrateful and satisfied. It's like, I see life through this lens of not enough and I'm not doing anything about it.
Right.
Then you get to a higher level, which is people that see life through a lens of not enough. They're ungrateful, but they're dissatisfied. So these I won't say it on air here, but they're a-holes. Like they're just complete a-holes in life. Mm-hmm. Like, because you can never satisfy them. These people are like just jerks in life. They see life through a lens of not enough, and they're never satisfied. So these are people, and I know of these people in life. You can never satisfy them. Mm-hmm. Nothing is ever good enough. A lot of parents are that way.
Yep.
Nothing is ever good enough. And then there's this line of gratitude that you can jump above, which is I'm grateful and I'm completely dissatisfied. So I'm jumping this line where I figure out that like, man, I know that I have always enough and I want more. And so I become very action based, where it's like, I'm going to get into this action based where I got to just do a ton. And this is where a lot of entrepreneurs lie. They lie in either the second level or the third level, which is they're either ungrateful and dissatisfied or grateful and dissatisfied. Either way, they're dissatisfied. Then you'll get to the highest level. And this is where magic happens, really. This is where all personal development happens. This is where, the Wayne Dyers of the world tell you need to live. And that is where you're grateful and satisfied, where you allow. It's not about how hard you work. It's about how well you can allow things to happen. And that's when you get into this spirit of allowing, that's where stuff just becomes easy. We've been taught that life has to be hard, that if you need money, you got to work hard for it. That's what we've been taught. That's not the way money actually comes. Money can come really easily if you can allow, which is that highest level. So there's just different levels by which people can act by.
Interesting.
I'm in the third, wanting to get to the fourth. Sometimes I'll drop down into the second, where I'm completely a jerk about things, but I try to stay above the line. Okay,
so what's the name of the author and the book and the research?
Yeah, so Levels of Consciousness, you can go and get it. Dr. David R. Hawkins. Okay. It's in the book Power versus Force. And in essence, what he's saying is, do you work off of power or force?
Right.
Force is below the line. Power is above the line.
Gotcha.
And power is when I grasp this idea that man, I live in a beautiful universe. Like we always have enough. There's an abundance of everything.
Yeah. It's so important to teach our kids this kind of stuff. And you're a father. Yeah.
I am. I got 2 little boys.
And so like, where is the school system like failing the world in terms of, clearly they don't do a good job in teaching like financial or budgeting or home, like entrepreneurship type stuff. And entrepreneurship is a real thing. There seems to be a rise in number of people that want to work from home, or if you're like me, work from anywhere. And, we're not teaching these people how to think like entrepreneurs in schools, and we're not teaching our kids how to think. What are you involved in this? Is this part of your work?
So my wife's an educator, public educator, and she's a phenomenal educator. And she's learned the difference between teaching kids what to think and teaching them how to think. And most of our school teachers that are in the public educational system, they're teaching kids what to think, pass this test, memorize these things, memorize this equation or this quotient or whatever it is, instead of teaching them how to think, how to critically think, how to look at something from all different angles. I love a quote by Bill Gove. Bill Gove once said that, 2% think, 3% think they think, 95% would rather die than think. And if people said what they were thinking, they'd be speechless, because most people don't think. They generationally think. Most people think what their parents thought. They believe what their parents believed. They practice the same religion. They practice the same politics. They go to the same schools. They do the same things. They literally have generational thoughts that have been passed down to them. That's the way they think. And then they pass it to their kids, and then they pass it to their kids. And at some point, when is a person going to step out of that and say, well, wait, what do I think? What do I think? I want an original thought, something that's like hasn't been handed to me by a book or by a podcast or by a video. Like, how can I get my own original thought? That's that high 2% thinking. Like, how can we get into original thought? And so in the school system, for me, for my boys, I'm always challenging them to think. Like, I don't know, what do you think? They'll ask me all the time, Dad, what do you think about this? It's like, I don't know, what do you think about it? And I challenge them to think about it. I challenge them to make a decision about it instead of always relying upon someone else to make their decisions. And by the way, that's the difference between employee and entrepreneurship. The employee has to be told what to do. They don't trust themselves.
Right.
They have to, when they see a problem, they have to be told how to solve the problem.
Right.
Where an entrepreneur, man, I see 10 problems every day and I just got to figure it out. I don't have a guidebook that tells me how to solve 90% of the problems that I have. My guidebook is Google. Literally, I will go to Google like 10 times a day saying, all right, how do I do this?
Right.
How do I dub an audio with an external audio with a voice audio? How do I do that? And then it takes me to Adobe Premiere and it's like, all right, how do I do it in Adobe Premiere? And I watch videos and I figure it out. Like, right. And people don't have this intuitiveness, this stick-to-itiveness of figuring it out. Just when you run into a problem, like, figure it out. What do you think? Think about it. Think.
Right.
The lost art.
Difficult stuff. All right, let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about something I said we were going to talk about, which is success.
Yeah.
Like, how do you define success? What is your definition of success? How does it differ from the majority of population? And maybe that we start there. Do you have a definition of success?
I do. And I believe that the definition that most people hold of success will stifle them their whole life.
Okay. What's that?
So the definition that most people, if I were to walk at, to 100 people on the street, I would guess that 99 out of 100 will tell me some variation of success is the achievement of an outcome.
Okay.
Like some variation of that. I got my big car. I got my big house. I got money. I was first in the prize. I had this expected outcome in my head and I got it.
Right.
That's success to people. So by default, failure is the opposite. Failure is I had this expected outcome in my head and I didn't get it.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore I failed. Those two definitions will stifle you if you're trying to be an entrepreneur. If you're trying to be an entrepreneur and you have a definition of whatever I envision will work on the first time, and if it doesn't work, I'm a failure, you will quit. And this is, I believe, the main reason why so many businesses fell within their first 3 years. Is this definition of success and failure. So here's two new definitions. These are my definitions, kind of morphed from different people. One of my favorite people of all time is Earl Nightingale. And he shared that the success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. My definition of that is success is the progression towards a dream.
Mm-hmm.
Something bigger than me. It's something that I don't know how to do and I can't logic my way to doing it. But it's like, I really want that thing, whatever, or that vision. It's just something that is huge and it will push it. It should pull me out of my chair every day to say, I'm excited to go after that. And progression towards it is success.
So that's a nuanced kind of a distinction here. It's almost like Jim Collins's BHAG. What is your 10 to 30 year goal? Which some people have as a numeric, $100 million or, 10 million people influenced or whatever. That's an outcome still.
So success is not the outcome of the BHAG.
It's
success is the progression towards the BHAG.
Gotcha. So that's where the emphasis is on the different word in the statement. It's
progression.
Got it.
Yeah. So then failure,
moving up that ladder.
Yes, moving. The journey. Success is the journey towards the BHAG. We get so locked in that once I get the BHAG, then I'll be successful. It's like, no, dude, just progress towards it. Do something every day towards it.
Okay.
So then my definition of failure comes from Sarah Blakely. So Sarah Blakely, Spanx, you got it. I love Sarah Blakely.
Right.
And she was being interviewed by CNN a few years ago. And in the middle of her interview, the interviewer asks her, like, how did you do this? How did you go from $5,000 in your bank account to $1 billion company? How did you do it? And she reflected back on her childhood. And she said, every week, my dad would ask me and my siblings to come around the table and we would have to come prepared with our failure of the week, meaning the things that we did that we fell flat on our face. We, struck out for the game-winning hit in a baseball game. We totally whiffed. And we would celebrate it. We would celebrate the times that we fell flat on our face.
Mm-hmm.
And then she said this in the interview. She said, I didn't realize it at the time, But my dad was reframing my definition of failure from outcome to simply not trying.
Right.
Failure is simply not trying.
Yeah, I've always said failure is just feedback, basically.
So when I look out there and it's like, all right, I got this huge goal, this big BHAG. And when I fall on my face because I tried something, did I fail or succeed?
Mm-hmm.
I succeeded. Thomas Edison, when was asked, like, dude, you failed 10,000 times creating a light bulb. He's like, no, I didn't.
Right.
Said, I found 9,999 ways how to not build a light bulb.
Right.
Just that little nuance of like, I didn't fail 10,000 times. I learned every time I didn't get it, what to do next. And it's that little shift. If you can shift that as a listener to this of like, you know what? I got to just go after a dream and just simply try. Do you know how many times I try things and I fall flat on my face, like every day I'm trying different things for my business. And it's like, oh, that didn't work. That definitely didn't work. But I learn. Right. I learn and I try again. I don't look at myself as a failure though.
Right.
Every time I try, it's like, oh, that didn't work. Therefore, I'm a failure. If I believe that, I won't try again.
But doesn't it get you angry sometimes when you try something and maybe you make a big investment in something and it doesn't go well? I mean, or you just like, I have a client who just was laughing yesterday in the meeting and he was like, oh God, I lost $2 million on that deal. And he just laughed like, what's $2 million? There's
what else can you do though? What does getting angry do?
No, it probably forces you into a ruminating state where you just sit with it and you don't move on from it. And that's not healthy.
Yeah. When you can laugh at it, he's like, dude, that was horrible.
Right.
All right. What's next?
Right.
Then you're done with it. The energy's gone.
Well, I think that's probably part of the secret to building confidence. I know that's something you talk about is like having a formula for building confidence, but it seems to me that if you don't ruminate, rather you learn, you look at failure as feedback, you do what Sarah Blakely's father did, and you laugh at it and you reverse it, turn it around in terms of what it means, and then move on to the next thing. Right.
So we live in the mountains here in Utah. We've got tons of mountains. And so there's lots of hunters. I don't personally hunt, but there's lots of hunters out there. And I've gone to hunting lessons and I've, and the formula is always the same, ready, aim, fire, ready, aim, fire. And I have completely changed the formula in business. It's not ready, aim, fire.
It's
ready, fire, aim.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Ready, fire, aim. Yeah. And then fire and then aim it. And then fire and then aim it. And then eventually you're going to be hitting the target every single time. It's our belief though, that I only have one shot that causes entrepreneurs to like stop dead in their tracks. It's like, no, you've got unlimited shots. Right. Well, but Tony, I only have X amount of dollars. It's okay. Go spend it. You'll find more. Try it.
Right.
Like just
being an entrepreneur is not like being a sniper. A sniper only has probably one shot.
Yeah.
Right. But an entrepreneur can pick themselves up and keep moving, keep going. So where do you think that comes from, by the way? Because that was part of what I learned when I first started coaching and was given some materials from a guy who had read, coincidentally, or not surprisingly, a lot of Earl Nightingale stuff, which I've not been a big consumer of. You're a big fan of Earl Nightingale.
I am.
He is the grandfather of like positive thinking.
He is.
Positive mental attitude. So where do you think that ready, fire, aim came from? Any idea?
Well, I know where the ready, aim, fire came from, and that came from, us as kids, that you only have one shot at the test. You only have one shot at the baseball game. You only got one shot to win. And it's living in this lack-based universe that I've only got so many opportunities that I have.
Right.
Where the ready, aim, or ready, fire, aim comes from is, I believe, childhood. When children, now where the quote comes from, I have no clue. where the practice comes from, where people that grow up with this like ready, fire, aim, it comes from parents that allow their kids to fail, that allow their kids to try, that allow their kids to say, "Oh, dude, you just totally fell. Give me a hand. Give me a high five. Go try again." And what most parents do is they're just so afraid of their kids getting hurt that they won't allow them to live, and it stifles them. It stifles their growth.
It's interesting. I think there might be people that I've spoken to that might verbally disagree with what we're talking about here. Okay. And they'll come from the place of a friend of mine was a top athlete competing in triathlons, and he got usually pretty upset about the world where everyone gets a medal.
I hate that. This idea where everyone gets a medal, that's
okay. So you're in agreement. Like everyone should not get a medal, but like, it doesn't that fit into the, hey, high five, it's okay, kid, you failed, like move on. No.
Yes and no. Like, again, it's how many opportunities do you have?
Right.
Like giving everyone a medal, that just makes kids entitled. Like, exactly. I don't agree with that.
Good for you.
But letting kids fail and say, awesome, go try again. Like, So I work with NFL athletes and Olympic athletes. Mm-hmm. That's who I work with. I work with them as they come out of their careers. Mm-hmm. And here's what I found about Olympic athletes and NFL athletes in particular. They're the most lack-based individuals I've ever worked with in my life.
Really?
Yeah.
Olympic athletes,
the most lack-based people I've ever dealt with.
Why?
Because they're so entrenched that there's only one opportunity to win.
Mm.
They believe that there is only one winner, and if you don't win, then you're a loser. And that's just wrong.
Right.
Like, I believe that athletics was created in lack. I love athletics, by the way. I'm a huge sports fan. I watch sports all the time. But I believe that, like, this idea that there's only one winner and everyone else is a loser, that is a lack-based mentality.
Mm.
And sports is based in lack. It's based in competition. And I've heard this quote many times. It was Bob Proctor that told me this, that amateurs compete where professionals create.
Meaning
amateurs compete where professionals create. Like, when you get into this like world of competition that I got to get mine, and if I don't get mine, then somebody else is going to get it, you will lose every time.
Right.
That's why 78% of all professional athletes go bankrupt within 3 years of their playing career, because they still think and believe in this world of lack, that everything's out to get them and that they got to win. And if they don't win, they're a loser, and they're not winning now. They're not winning in life. So they must be losing, and they lose it all.
Interesting. We don't hear about those people. We hear about the Magic Johnsons and, whose business career has been arguably almost as good or better than his basketball career. His basketball career was phenomenal. So it's funny. We don't hear about the guy. I occasionally hear about the baseball pitcher who went off the wagon and had a DUI and then, homicide with a, driving crash. You hear about a few of those errand people. But a lot of the rest of the sports athletes and Olympic athletes, especially people that are number 2, number 3, and never get the notoriety in the Olympics, they just fade away. I don't know where they go.
And then they get completely lost. And that's the work I do with people. That's the work I'm doing with professional athletes and Olympians. Is like, look, you have it. You've got it. You've got a lot of the grit. You got a lot of the work ethic. We just got to change your mindset from this lack idea that there's only one winner to an abundance that you've got multiple opportunities in life now.
Right.
Like, just because you didn't get your $100 million contract in the NFL doesn't mean you can't get a $100 million deal tomorrow. Like, you've got this.
I mean, there's so many avenues opened up to those people, right? I mean,
yeah.
Some people might just think, well, there's only a few broadcasting spots, or there's only, or I'm not cut out for that. But, so much opportunity out there in the world. And so that's interesting. So tell us a little bit about your company, Elevated Worldwide. You work with Olympic athletes, but you have a company of people that work with entrepreneurs and helping them create these habits. Tell us a little about your company, Tony.
Yeah. So look, like, you are what you think about, and your results are a direct reflection on what you think about. And 97% of our results are subconscious, below conscious. Mm-hmm. And most of that was created before we were 8 years old. Most of what I believe subconsciously was already framed for me before I even left elementary school. And most are never doing anything to influence the subconscious. Conscious awareness is 3 to 7%. And that's where like listening to books or going to class or getting certification, that's all conscious awareness.
Right.
But it's working on the subconscious that will then drastically change the results in life. So if I just want to get, 3 to 7% increase every year, then I work on my 3 to 7% increase on my conscious mind. But if I want to get a 50 to 100% increase year over year, then it's the subconscious work I've got to do. And that's where, Elevated Worldwide and the work we do, it's subconscious. I don't deal a lot with the conscious mind. There's enough companies out there that are doing certifications and trainings and classes, and I don't do that. I strictly do subconscious work. So how do we take your results and add a 0 to it next year? How do I take your sales number and add a 0 to it? Think about that. Like if you made $100,000 this year, how do I make you $1 million next year?
That's a 10x type of thinking.
Most people don't think that way. They just think, man, if I can just get 3 to 7%, that would be awesome. I don't deal in those numbers.
Right. So how do you do that? I mean, working on the subconscious mind almost reminds me of, there was a company called Midwest Learning years ago that had those cassette tapes. You probably ran across them. And
we do all of it. We do. So repetition, there's 2 ways to change the subconscious: spaced repetition of an idea, emotionalized over time, and strong emotional impacts, plus a little bit of hypnotherapy if you want to get into that. But the 2 ways I focus on are those 2 ways: spaced repetition of an idea is emotionalized over time, and strong emotional impact. So we provide workbooks and audios and videos, all that deal with the subconscious programming.
Wow.
And then we also do trainings where we do strong emotional impact trainings, where we're changing people in weekends that like dramatic changes, going into their childhood, going in before you were 8 years old and reprogramming that stuff. So great work.
This done in person in Utah?
So the trainings are here in Utah, although we're starting to now branch out. We've got our first training in Arizona, up in Idaho. We're going to California. So we're starting to do the trainings outside of Utah.
Okay.
But most of the work is done in cohorts online. Zoom, the pandemic was a huge benefit for me because I was able to figure out how to do all my work through Zoom and through online. And so really we can help anyone in the world.
That's fantastic. And so how do people find you?
If you go to tonychild.com, that's the best way to, find me. And there's different links to social media. Keepelevated.com is my company. But yeah, just connect with me. I'd love to help anyone with anything that they might be working on.
It's great. This is a great conversation. Anything you'd like to close with? Any calls to action or offers? Please. We'll have your information in the show notes. But
So 2 things. Number 1, you're enough. Stop with this idea that you're not enough. So if you're listening today, I just want you to know that can you get better? Of course you can. But right now you are enough. Stop comparing yourself to other people. You are enough. And then number 2, go do something that scares you. Like most of the time when we get to that ragged edge of our familiar comfort zone, we mistake that feeling of fear for this must not be right. When in essence, it's no, this is not familiar. And when you can push through those barriers, life is incredible on the other side. So my invitation, my call to action, go do something that scares you. If heights scare you, go sign up for skydiving. Go do something that just rocks your world. And you'll see that you can go so much further than you think you can.
Wow. Well, Tony, it's been great spending this 40 or so minutes with you. Folks, if this has moved you, grab maybe some of Tony's workbooks or check out his website. Maybe check out some of the authors that he referenced today. This is all stuff that is going to be move your career, move your life, move your business, move your entrepreneurial venture forward. It's been a pleasure spending this time with you, Tony. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Likewise.
All right, folks, you know the drill. If you like this show, please give us a great rating on your podcast listening app of choice. Share it with others, subscribe, and remember to be grateful, think positive, and be your best version of success.
This podcast is sponsored by myself, Jonathan Goldhill, and my company, the Goldhill Group.
where we provide coaching for growing companies. I'm Jonathan Goldhill, and my purpose is simple: to guide entrepreneurial leaders in family businesses towards more freedom and fulfillment. I want entrepreneurs to get clarity around the changes that will make them and their businesses more successful so they can experience the same freedom I've enjoyed in my life. Our proven practices challenge business owners to think differently about their business and how they're running it, and quite literally become game changers in our clients' companies. Learn more at thegoldhillgroup.com website, where you can schedule your free strategy session.
Thank you for joining us on the Disruptive Successor podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, review, and share with a friend who would benefit from the message. If you're interested in picking up a copy of my book, Disruptive Successor, go to disruptivesuccessor.com.